Some people think there's the untold truths, and there are a lot of untold truths. We can go deep down the rabbit hole into them, but really none of it will work if you can't master the first law of wealth. What's going on, everybody? I'm Chris Naugle, the host of the show, and today we're going to talk about the untold truth about money. How you can build wealth from nothing. I know a lot of people, they think that they're born into a certain situation and then that's it. Well, I was born to work on the railroad, so that's what my pops did. That's what the granddad did, and that's what I got to do. Wrong. That's a mindset problem. You can do anything you want, and that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about some of those untold truths about money, and we're also going to talk about some myths you've been told about money. Before we do that, I always like to start off by talking about the most important thing when it comes to educating yourself and getting knowledge. And that comes down to so many people think that the knowledge is everything. They think all I got to do is get a college education and I'm going to be rich. All I got to do is learn this. All I got to do is watch this YouTube video and I'm going to know everything. Wrong. What you got to do is you got to apply the knowledge, and you got to apply the knowledge into your life in a way that you and your mind can actually make use of that knowledge. See, not all knowledge is going to be useful, because how many times have you learned something and then all of a sudden you had nowhere to apply it? Like you learn how to change the tire on a Ford F-150, but you don't own a Ford F-150. 10 years later, you get a Ford F-150. You think you're going to remember that knowledge that you learned? You won't. It's because you weren't ready to accept the knowledge at the time when you got it. So if this video falls upon you at the right time when you can apply this knowledge, great. That's what I want you to do. And I'm going to test you on that. So in order to apply knowledge, it's a very simple thing. You learn and you apply. So let me test that by giving you something for free. I'm going to give you my books. I'm going to give you Private Money Guide. I'm going to give you this book, Drifting Away from Traditional Car Buying, which is a book on how to get all the money back for every car you're going to buy, drive, and own. And then I'm going to give you this one, Mapping Out the Millionaire Mystery. And to get all three of these books, all you have to do is one thing. That's it. So let's try that. What you're going to do is you're going to go to chrisnaugle.com. That's Naugle. Just write it down, chrisnaugle.com. Couple index fingers until you get to the book section, and then you're just going to get them. That's it. Yeah. Pretty simple, right? But that's applying knowledge. I just told you how to get free books. Now all you need to do is go and get them. So let's see if we can carry this on through this episode called The Untold Truth About Money. Let's start with a story. You see, when I grew up in a lower middle class family. And I used to watch my mom. So she always struggled. You know, when my dad left, my mother didn't have much. And I watched her struggle. You've all been in a similar situation or know somebody that's been in a situation. You know, oh, we're not heating the outside. Shut the door. Oh, shut the refrigerator. What are you looking for in there? Hurry up. It's all those things, right? That limited mindset, that scarcity mindset. But that's how I grew up. You know, we weren't heating the outside. And it really was because mom wanted to keep the utility bills down because she was struggling. And every time my mom wanted something, she would have to save up for it. So I'd watch my mom come home from the grocery store with a pocket full of change, whatever was left over that she didn't pay for groceries, and she put it in this glass jar. And over time, that glass jar would begin to fill up. And I would watch this. And then when she determined it was the right time, her and I would sit down on her floor in her bedroom and we would roll all that change. And I'd watch that change all accumulate into these giant piles of rolled change. And I remember one time in particular, my mom had begun saving up for a lawnmower, because the mower that we had almost 2 acres of land, and the mower that we had took almost an entire day to mow the lawn. And sometimes it wouldn't even make it through it. And you just have the lawnmower sitting out in the back and half the lawn was mowed. I don't know if any of you can relate to that, but that's what we did. And my mom wanted to buy this brand new Craftsman lawnmower. And I'll never forget it. She showed me pictures of it in the magazine and in the Sears catalog, Sears Roebuck catalog. And one day my mom left with all the rolled up change and she came back with that lawnmower. Now, this might not seem like a big deal to you, but this was a really big deal to us. I'd never seen something so beautiful. This silver Craftsman lawnmower that we just got would mow the lawn in about 2 hours, not an entire day. And I remember mom taught me how to use it, and I just could not get off that thing. I had a great tan that summer. The moral of this story is my mom taught me a very important lesson. She taught me how to save. She taught me how to keep more of my money and how to pay myself first. Because it wasn't long after that my mom got me this little black box with a slide top. And I began to go out and do odds and ends jobs, cleaning. My neighbor had some horses. I'd go over and clean up the stalls. I worked at another farm where I'd clean up pig stalls. And I got, $5 here, $10 there. And I began to save that money. And I had this goal. I wanted this dirt bike that I saw in the newspaper, in the classifieds. It was a KX60 when I first started dreaming about it. And I would draw pictures of it on Trapper Keepers. And I remember that dream of that dirt bike became so real to me that I would literally have dreams of riding this dirt bike. Now, some time went by and I got a little bit older and I got a little bit taller as I was saving in this little black box. My mom took me to that dirt bike store. It's called Hebler's. And I remember the owner of the store wheeled out 2 bikes, an RM and a KX. And he let me ride both of them. And at the end, it was like the best, whatever. It felt like an all-day excursion, but it was probably no more than 15, 20 minutes of riding these bikes. And I remember going back to the car thinking, all right, we're leaving. And my mom said, do you want to take that dirt bike home with you? And I didn't even know what to make of that. I'm like, I thought she was kidding me. She began to tell me then that I had saved up enough money that we could indeed buy that dirt bike and take it home with us. And we did. And that dirt bike, man, I spent more time cleaning it than I did riding it because it was my prized possession. But again, it was all because of that one thing that she taught me, and that was pay myself first. So when you talk about the untold truth about money, one of the most important things that you need to do is you need to pay yourself first, because that's not what you're taught to do. You're taught to pay your creditors first. You're taught to pay your bills first. You're taught to pay your debts first. Your needs are always put last on the list, aren't they? You're taught to pay them first, and anything you want, well, if you get around to it. We should change that. Not easy, because it's against the grain. I'm not saying don't pay your bills. I'm just saying try to figure out how to pay yourself first. And how I did that is for every $10 that I would earn, I would pay myself $1. That's right. For every 10, I would pay myself $1. And that's how I began to pay myself first. And that's how I ended up getting that dirt bike and many other things. And that has carried with me throughout life. Now, some people think there's the untold truths, and there are a lot of untold truths. We can go deep down the rabbit hole into them, but really none of it will work if you can't master the first law of wealth, which is pay yourself first. You have to be saving at least 10%. And I know a lot of folks that will watch this podcast are not saving 10%. Because when I look at the industry averages, when I look at the United States savings average, we just did a YouTube video on this today, 5.1%. That's the number. That's right, 5.1%. So that's how much people are saving. They're not saving 10%. So until you can master the first law of paying yourself first, the rest of what I'm going to teach you won't matter. So please take some time to get that one down. And if you are saving and you are keeping and paying yourself first, great. We can move on to the second piece. The second piece is a little bit more complex, but actually simple, but you can make it complicated in your mind. And it is, once you've saved money, you can't leave that money sit. Now, I know we've been taught to believe that if we leave the money sit, it compounds and it's going to grow over time and, don't touch it. But you see, there's not a business in the world that uses compound interest. And when I speak on stages, I often ask, what business in the world uses compound interest? And everybody very quickly says, oh, banks, insurance companies, or Wall Street, or this. And they name off a whole bunch of companies. And I say, none of them. You're the only one that's been taught that compound interest requires you to keep your money sitting, because there's not a business in the world that uses compound interest, because every business in the world, as far as I know, keeps their money in motion. That's right. When you go into a bank and you make a deposit to this bank, put that money in a little box with your name on it in the vault. No, the bank sends that money out to work for them. The bank puts that money in motion. They loan that money out. That money continually just stays in motion. And while it's in motion, that bank is making your money work for it. Why? Well, because you've been taught to believe that you should just park your money, give up control of it, give it to the bank and leave it sit there in that CD or that bank account where it's going to earn peanuts, but it's going to compound. And in the next 40 years, maybe you'll make $100. I'm just kidding, but you get the drift. When the bank goes out and takes your money and makes your money work for it. Same thing with insurance companies, same thing with Wall Street, same thing with grocery stores. Those groceries on that shelf, man, those groceries just don't sit there. They'd go bad. Those groceries are constantly moving. That's their money. It's in motion. Car dealerships, those cars don't just sit there and look pretty all day, every single day for years, do they? No, they move. They're constantly moving that inventory, always moving their money. So one of the untold truths is, number one, pay yourself first. Number two, your money's got to work for you. Your money's got to be in a constant state of motion. And if it's not, your money's dying, especially recently with inflation where it's at. Anybody that's parked their money has realized the impact of that. If you put it in a bank account, well, you're not keeping pace with inflation. If you put it in a CD, gosh, that was just a stupid decision. If you put it in Wall Street, at first it was working and now it's not, because markets are going down and markets are cyclical. They follow very predictable, very rhythmic cycles and patterns. And unfortunately, the pattern that we're going into, the cycle we're going into, is a downward cycle, a deflationary cycle. That isn't good when you just leave your money sitting there, because it then loses and loses. And then you feel hopeless. You feel resentful. You feel like you made a mistake. And that's not good. Fear kicks in, panic kicks in. And then most people will sell when it gets really low and they'll suffer the losses. But if your money was in a constant state of motion, then you have now learned one of the untold truths about money. And that is, your money must work for you. But for your money to work for you, you must be in control of your money. So you got to first stop giving up control. Stop leaving your money in the banks, thinking that they're there for you. I mean, if you didn't just learn something with Silicon Valley Bank going bankrupt and Signature Bank and Credit Suisse, and shall I keep going? Because there will be a lot more. Then you haven't learned anything. Keep your money in your control. Keep your money in motion. And allow your money to always work for you, the most important person. You need to be a good steward of your money. That's a really big untold truth. But then we got to add another step to that. So another untold truth is people invest in things because of emotions. They get emotional about stuff. You know, like when crypto came out, you know, everybody rushed into crypto, but most people didn't even know what they were investing in. They're buying coins because their Uber driver told them, oh, this one's going to the moon. And then it didn't. They made an emotional-based decision with their money. And usually that never ends well. See, if we can just stop making decisions based on emotions, and we can start making investment decisions or decisions about our money with pure logic, the rose-colored glasses, let me just show you what they look like. The rose-colored glasses will literally come off, and you'll start to see things for what they really are. And you'll be able to make sound decisions based on what you're investing in, because those decisions will be based on logic. And a lot of times that logic will tell you, well, I'm not going to invest in this. So if you start just using logic and you stop making quick knee-jerk emotional-based reactions or emotional-based decisions when it comes to your money, you're going to be a lot better off. You got to get rid of those rose-colored glasses because they're serving you not so well. Your real estate business lives and dies by the network and the connections that you make. I mean, after all, your network, well, it's your net worth. That's what you always heard, right? If that's an area where you desire improvement, well, Private Money Club, it's for you. PMC saves you precious time and money by bringing the real estate world, well, right to you, right in the palm of your hand. So get in on the action like so many others have by going to privatemoneyclub.com and sign up. And moving past that, the other thing that a lot of people make the mistake, and this is where I was going with this, is, not using emotions, strictly use logic, but also invest in things that you know, things that you like, and things that you understand. See, if you invest in things that you know, like, and understand, your chance of making money, your chance of losing money are far less because you understand it. What are you good at? What do you do every day? What do you consider yourself an expert in? That's what you should be investing in because you know, like, and understand it. And if you step outside and your emotions take back over and you start investing in things that you don't know, like, and understand, your chances of losing money are significantly greater, which is why I can't understand why so many people put their money in the stock market when they know nothing about the stock market. But if they were to understand the stock market and they were to understand what they're investing in, well, they'd have a much better shot of making money because they'd know how to buy low, sell high, and not lose money. But most people do the opposite. They use emotions. So what does that result in? It results in them buying high. Why? Because your emotions kick in when everything's doing well, right? When everybody else is putting their money in something. That's usually when something's high. So because emotions kick in, you buy high. And then what happens? Well, those emotions stay with you. And when the stock goes down or the mutual fund goes down or ETF or whatever the heck you invested in goes down, those emotions then prompt you to make a bad decision and sell low. And when you buy high and you sell low, what is the automatic? You lose money. The complete opposite of what you need to do, which is buy low, sell high, and then you can't lose money. So simple, folks. And that's led by a whole nother untold truth. And that is called greed. You see, if you're going to invest, you need to invest and be realistic. So many people are chasing the big returns. They always want the big return. Oh, I lost some money and I got to make up. That's the worst, scariest thing when I hear it. When somebody's done a vengeance. Oh, I got to make up. Well, that means you're going for that risk. I got to take on that risk. I got to make up lost time. I got to make up for that retirement money that I didn't save. I got to catch up. I want to retire someday. So I got to get ahead. Where can I make the most amount of money? Yep. Over there, right where you're going to lose your money. Because if you're not realistic with your investments, then you're greedy. And you need to be realistic and never get greedy. But when you make decisions based on trying to make big returns, you're making emotional-based decisions to be greedy. And greed never lands you in the right place. Maybe for a short while, like, oh, that Chris guy didn't know what he was talking about. I'm doing just fine. Until you're not. You see, this isn't difficult stuff. Be realistic and never get greedy. So let's just do a recap of what we did so far. Number one, told you the story about my mom and my little black box that got me that dirt bike. Pay yourself first. And that should be no less than 10% of the gross amount that you earn. Number two, your money must be in motion. Don't give up control of your money. Don't put your money in places and leave it sit because that compound interest thing you've been, told that you got to put the money here and just leave it sit. I can show you how to make uninterrupted compound interest and your money can still be in motion. You can make compound interest and your money can be in motion. We'll get to that in a little bit. Number three, you got to protect your wealth and invest in things that you know, like, and understand. Stop using emotions to make investment decisions. Start using logic and start using logic by investing in things that you know, things that you like and things that you understand. And then the fourth thing, don't get greedy with your money. Don't shoot for the stars. Don't shoot for the moon. Oh, it's going to the moon. No, make realistic decisions with returns. Sometimes a consistent lower return will always outweigh that big return you're going for. You're not always going to get that. Slow and steady wins the race. You've heard this a million times. And then the other thing too, another untold truth about money. I mean, this is probably the most important one I could ever tell you. You want to make a lot of money? You want a lot of wealth? This isn't going to make a lot of sense to you. But if you do want to become stupid rich, stupid wealthy, all you need to do is one thing: solve a problem for someone else. Notice how I didn't say solve a problem for you. Notice how I didn't say solve your problem. Notice how nothing around what I just said is you, them. Zig Ziglar said it best. You will get all you want in life if you help enough people get what they want. If you help enough people get what they want. It didn't say if you help yourself get what you want. You got to help others solve their problems. And the bigger the problem, the more you'll make. So if you're in business and you're a creator, so there's really only two types of people. There's people that succeed and people that fail. And there's only one difference between the two, and it's called creation. So if you're a creator and you're creating your destiny, if you're creating your financial plan and you're creating all that, good for you. That's a really important thing. But you want wealth, then go solve somebody else's problem. Because if all you do when you go to work or you go into your business, or you go out there to sell something, is if you're focused on doing it just to solve your problem. Now, let me give you another story. When I was a financial advisor, sometimes I will tell you that we were taught to go out and sell a product, and we were taught to sell a product. And a lot of times the consultants would tell us what product paid the highest commission. Why would that be? Because they knew inherently we'd go out and try to sell the higher commission one. But whose problem were we trying to solve in doing that? Whose problem was the company's consultant trying to solve the problem for? Them and me. I wasn't solving somebody else's problem, although I thought I was. The first problem I was trying to solve is, how do I make more money? And that always lands you in the wrong mindset. But if you just stop focusing on you, like today, with what we do with BYOB, be your own banker, and the money multiplier method, what we do there 100% revolves around solving the client's problem. Every call we get on with our clients, we're always solving their problem. What problem are we going to solve today? Great. You got debts. Let's pay the debt off. Oh, great. You want to get all the money back for the cars that you buy, drive, and own? Let's solve that problem too. Great. You want to make money twice by tapping into a place where your money can earn uninterrupted compound interest, then taking the money and sending it out into whatever investment or whatever loan you're going to do so you can make money a second time. Great. That's the problem we're going to solve. Notice how none of those discussions were like, well, let's see. How do I solve my problem? And then we'll solve the client's problem. Backwards. That's why with what we do with the specially designed and engineered whole life policies, it requires us to design them so that they actually pay us 60 to 90% less, so that our clients can get 60 to 90% more cash value to use immediately in the first 30 days. You see, that's what I'm just mentioning. Solve somebody else's problem. And if you just do that, you just think about them, focus on them, focus on their problem, get engaged in their problem and really solving it. You're number one, going to feel a lot better. You're going to come out on top every single time. And you're always going to be focused on the right thing. And because you're focused on the right thing, your problems, you won't have any. Your problems will take care of themselves. You'll make plenty of money. You make lots of money doing that. Might not come all at once, because building wealth is a marathon. It is not a sprint. And if you're sprinting your way to wealth, then you're making another big mistake. These are some really important untold truths. And none of them that I just gave you are a product focused thing. They're all just untold truths. Nobody's telling you this. You're not learning this in school. You're not learning this in college. Your advisor certainly isn't telling you this. I just talked to a gentleman this weekend. He had lost his mother, and he asked me and Larissa to come out and just give him some advice about the house that they inherited and what they should do and what they shouldn't do. And we did. We went out there. We didn't even ask. And they offered to pay us. And we're like, we don't know. We're not taking any money. We just how can we serve? And we did that. We spent a couple hours out there, gave them some great advice. They thanked us. But then in the process, the one gentleman who was there started asking about, money. He'd heard that I got these YouTube videos, and he wanted some advice, and I gave him some simple advice. He sent me an email today with what his thoughts were for his money. And I sent an email back with what my thoughts were, which were, of course, the opposite of what he was thinking. And I don't know whether anything will ever happen on that, because that's that switch, right? You got to almost make a complete 180-degree switch in the way that you think about money if you really want to be on the right track. Because everything you've been taught about money, for the most part, is a lie to benefit somebody else, to get them to be in control of your money. I don't care whether you believe me or not, but it is the truth. And sometimes, folks, the truth hurts. And for this gentleman, I think that might be the case. It was such a drastic switch. And it was so simple. I didn't give him any elaborate investment strategies. I didn't do anything. I just told him, here are the things you need to do. You need to take back control of your money. He wanted to move the money to this financial advisor with this firm that he thought was this big, prestigious firm. And I reminded him, hey, do you remember in 2009 when that firm went bankrupt and they were bought by a bank, which I'm not going to name the name. You could probably figure it out. Yeah, if they were so good and so prestigious, why'd they go bankrupt? Yeah, the same reason they're probably going to go bankrupt again. Risky driver. But yet, he was just doing what he was told to do. And he even said to me, he says, I'm not a sophisticated investor. I don't know. I just, this is what I am. This is what I do. This is what I've done for 35 years. I get it. 35 years of being lied to. 35 years of being taught the wrong things to do with your money. 35 years of giving up control of your money. I can't just erase that in one email and one discussion. I can't just say, hey, here's the truth. Here's the untold truth about money. And here's the path you got to follow. Walk it. That's a hard change. Sometimes it takes folks a lot of time to make this change. And sometimes certain folks will never make the change. But you know what? Share what you know anyway. That's what I've been told. And that's what I do. Whether or not you walk the walk, I can lead you to the water, but I can't make you drink it. But those that do drink the water, they learn how to be a good steward of their own money. They realize they're the only one that cares about their money more than anybody else. And they're the ones that are then going to create their financial destiny. But if you just keep giving up control of your money, you're defying all the untold truths about money. And you're just doing what they've told you to do the whole time so that it can benefit them. When are you going to wake up? When are you going to realize that that's all you need to do? Take back control of your money. And once you take back control of your money, I always say the next step is learn how to become your own bank. Because when you learn how to become your own bank, that puts you in control of your money. It allows you to save that money to pay yourself first. It allows you to make your money go to work for you always. Your money always maintains the ability to go in motion for you. You earn uninterrupted compound interest on that money in a tax-free environment if created properly. And then all you need to do is just invest in things you know, like, and understand. Never get greedy with your money and solve somebody else's problem. And that's exactly what I do. Gosh, I never really put it all together like that. You pay yourself first. You learn how to make your money go to work for you, which doesn't involve just leaving that money sit. You invest in things that you know, like, and understand. You make logical decisions instead of emotional-based decisions. And then after that, you don't get greedy. You just realize you just got to be realistic in what your expectation of a return is. And you go out and you solve somebody else's problem. You see, that's what I did. I changed one thing. I changed where my money went first. I stopped giving the money to Wall Street. I stopped putting the money in the banks. And I started putting the money in my own bank, in a specially designed and engineered whole life built to become my own bank. And then I would find places where that money could go and serve somebody else and solve somebody else's problem. You know what I started doing? I started lending money. Why? Because that's what the banks did. I did a little different than the banks, but I started lending money on real estate. Why real estate? Because I know, like, and understand real estate. And I also like the fact that it's a tangible asset that securitizes my loan, just like the banks. If you're not first, you're last, Ricky Bobby's dad said. And then I get a return back, and that return is a modest, good return. Right now, I'm making 12 to 15%. That might be huge, but it's not shooting for the moon for 30 to 50%. Every time I've chased those big returns, it's never worked out. So I just go for the slow and steady. But I'm solving somebody else's problem in that, because that person needed that money to go make money. There's only two types of people in the world: people that have money and people that need money. They both got a problem that needs to be solved. People that have money, their problem, they want to make more. People that need money, their problem, well, they need money to make money. So those are two problems you can go out there and solve. Folks, in this episode, I've covered a lot of ground. I've covered the untold truth about money. And I also told you how you can make money even if you're starting with nothing. You heard the story about my mom and that lawnmower. We started at nothing. I started with nothing in that little black box. And then I had something, and that turned into the dirt bike. And that turned into the car that I got when I was 15 years old that I bought. 1986 Buick Skyhawk. And that has turned into lots of things up to today. I mean, we're not going to get into what I have today, but I've done the same thing. And yes, I've changed some things along the way. The most important thing is I started to take back control of my money, and I changed where my money went first, just like you should do. If you want to learn more about that, you can watch a video, okay, on my website, chrisnaugle.com. A 90-minute video will pop up. Watch that video. Take action. That video, that same video, was done by somebody else, my mentor, Brent Kessler. But I watched that video back in 2014 when I was in a really tough place in my life. That video, that 90-minute video, changed my life, just like it would change yours. But it's not going to change your life if you just talk about it. It's not going to change your life if you just think about it. It's going to change your life when you actually watch it and apply what it teaches you, which is just as simple as changing one thing and adding one step. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Money School podcast. Go out there and learn the truth about money. Talk to you next time.